Hi, welcome back to Guessagaingaming with another final for the moment update on Pathfinder War of the Righteous. So I'm going to kind of make this as brief as I can. So it's just a few more thoughts, and I've made a couple of videos about this game already that I deleted and I didn't post because I've kind of changed what I wanted to say, and I decided to condense them all into one shorter video. So ongoing in this game, and I'm now on chapter 3. What I'd like to say is very similar to Kingmaker. The actual game can be fun. The characters are quite fun. The combat's fun. There's an extra layer to this game, which is the Crusader mode, where you play as a kind of army that's not your main characters, and I like that system. I think that's you have quite a few armies, by the way. I'll just show you. I've got 2 or 3 different generals, and these are little bits of armies that I'm probably going to link up. So there's a little army. So you have that extra mode, and I find the combat in that fun as well. So there's lots of elements of this game that's good. The story's interesting, the characters themselves are interesting, but the problems I found are similar to Kingmaker, kind of. Firstly, a bit like the advisor mode in Kingmaker, there's this morale mode in Crusader, where your army needs to keep winning battles, taking enemy forts, and not have your cities taken over, or your forts, and it's not easy. At one point I did make a video about this, but I deleted it. I deleted it before I posted it because I got to a point where my morale was really bad. It was like -100, and I thought I'm not going to continue, and I made a video about that, and then I thought I'll continue a bit, and I managed to get it back to kind of close to okay. But it's hard because there's a limit to the amount of forts there are to keep taking over, and the lower your morale gets, and I'm not going to go into all the detail of this, the lower your morale gets, the harder it is to recruit new troops, and the more expensive it is, and you don't get new recruits because no one wants to join your army when the morale's dropping. So it's that same thing with the advisor thing in Kingmaker, where you get to a point where you're kind of doomed if you do, doomed if you don't. I did manage to get out of it, but it's a bit of a grind. It's not fun to do because you get to a point where your morale's dropping, but you've done nothing wrong, and I think that's annoying in any game if you're doing the right things. And like I said, there's limits to the amount of forts you can take over, and if your army suffers a really bad defeat somewhere, you're going to run out of troops, so that's not really great. The other thing that I find with this game, very similar to the later stage of the Kingmaker, and this is an earlier stage, I'm only on chapter 3 here, is you get to a point where there's not much to do in that chapter, and you're kind of waiting. So I've done all the bits I could find in this chapter, which is the 5th Crusade. This one, I haven't found out where that is, and it's not a thing that's going to make the next part move on anyway. And all these other things, except this one, which I'm going to, or I didn't do well, but they're not all things. So I've done all the things that there are to do, basically. Some I didn't finish for various reasons, or I did wrong by the game standard, not by what I did. But there's not anything left to do except this one thing, and that's not a thing that's necessarily going to move the game on to the next chapter. So you get to this point, like with Kingmaker, where you've kind of run out of things to do, and you're just kind of waiting for the next trigger event to get into the next chapter. And the problem with that is, I like long games. If Watch Dogs Legion, and if anyone's watched this channel ever, you'll know that it's my favourite game. If that went on endlessly and there was no end to it, I would be completely satisfied with that. Not just Watch Dogs Legion. XCOM 2 is a game where it's very concise and things happen pretty quickly, and if that was longer and there was more going on, I would be quite happy to keep playing that. I've replayed that many times. But I'll be quite happy if that was long, because the things that happen are pretty quick and you don't have to wait. And usually when you get to those main missions at the end, it's your choice to trigger them or not. But with this game, it's long, and there's, again, similar to Kingmaker, there's parts where you're in a chapter and there's not anything really happening to trigger the next thing. You're just waiting for an event that's out of your control. I'm not really keen on this chapter thing. I thought about that when I was playing, and I guess it's the way they wanted to do it, and that's, up to them. But I don't think it's necessarily a good thing. Often big, massive, expansive games, Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk don't have chapters. You just trigger the event. I know they're not turn-based, but they don't have. They have trigger events that make the next part of the story come on, but you can do those when you want. So in The Witcher 3 and in Cyberpunk, for example, in Watch Dogs Legion, you can trigger the events that make the next part of the story happen. You don't have to wait and wait. So this chapter thing, I don't think benefits the game. I don't really see what the benefit to it is, because you have a chapter, okay, you've got all these things you need to finish by the end of the chapter, but they could just be time related. You don't have to have it in a chapter. But by having chapters, it means you're waiting for a trigger event that's not always something, or isn't actually something you can do yourself. You're waiting for something else to happen. And I don't think that benefits the game. I think it would be good if you had a chapter, as in with the games I just mentioned, in most games, where, yes, there's trigger events, but you trigger them. So as with XCOM 2, you can decide when to attack the final communications relay of the aliens and then attack their base. You can decide when to do that. But this game, you can't. So I think that doesn't help the game, and especially when you end up with like days and days and days and days, as with Kingmaker, where there's not anything new to do and you're just fighting this morale. And in Kingmaker it was the advisors and failing cities, and your broken cities, and it's broken morale, but it's the same idea, the same kind of system. I think that's helpful. So I found that in the last couple of weeks I've played this a lot less, because the waiting for something to happen while you're trying to do things is not good. And like I said, based on my Kingmaker experience, if this is like this in chapter 3, I'm not sure how it's going to go later. I will play it more, but I've not played it this week actually. So like I said, it's a game that I think I put a lot of hours into Kingmaker in a big blast over many weeks, and I put a lot of hours into this over the 3 chapters. And I think I'm kind of Kingmaker, War of the Righteous, Pathfinder worn out. And again, that's not because the game is necessarily disappointing, but it's because it's a grind at a certain point. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Pathfinder, War of the Righteous. It's a good game in parts. The chapter thing doesn't help it. The morale advisor thing they do, which is a similar system, doesn't help. And most of all, the fact that you can't trigger your own end of chapters, new events. You're often waiting for the game to do that, and that is probably the biggest problem. Anyway, thanks for watching Guessagaingaming. Till next time, take care for now.